This is the Moonlight Graham Show, a freewheeling conversation with the role players, the underdogs, and guys with flat-out great stories in sports.
Hello and welcome back to the Moonlight Graham Show, where we celebrate the role players, the underdogs, and the great stories in sports. And our Moonlighter for today has been playing catch for 358 consecutive days. Inspired by reading the book A Year of Playing Catch by Moonlighter Ethan Bryan, Kevin Negaard out of Sioux City, Iowa, has been playing catch for the last 358 days. It's going to be a year on January 17th to raise $100,000 for the Miracle League of Sioux City. And I just heard about this story. I saw it on social media a while ago, and I've wanted to have Kevin on the podcast to talk about his year of playing catch. Obviously, that is something that we've talked about here on the podcast before through Ethan Bryan, and so many people have reached out to me since that Ethan Bryan episode where he played catch for a year. He wrote a book about it. I happened to be one of the guys he played catch with during that year. And now so many other people have thought that was a great idea. They wanted to do it, and they've done it as well. But I have yet to see anybody do it quite like Kevin has done it, where he's paired it with a cause, a great cause, the Miracle League. If you don't know what the Miracle League is, Google it. I don't even want to describe it because I actually want you to go to the internet and find it on your own because it's an amazing, amazing organization. But Kevin's been doing this, raising money over the past year for the Miracle League. And I wanted to bring him back on the podcast just to talk to somebody again that's done this because I kind of want to do it too. Now, I don't know if I'm going to play catch for the next 365 days at any point in my life. I kind of want to, but I want to find whatever it is that's my thing for the next year. And so I wanted to do this episode starting off a year because everybody's got New Year's resolutions going on right now, and everybody's got these goals, and it's fun to talk to somebody who is accomplishing a full year goal. Like I talked about last week, so many resolutions end after January or they fall off after February. Kevin is a guy that has stuck with it every day throughout the course of an entire year. I want to find something to do that. I think my goal for this year, for 2023, when it comes to athletics, is I want to get back in throwing shape, and I want to set a miles per hour, like get a radar gun out there and see if I'd like to think 90 miles an hour is still attainable for me. I don't know if it really is. What I want to do is I want to get in shape. I want to get the radar out, and then I want to set a goal for myself based off of an in-shape bullpen. So I'd like to say, I want to hit 90 miles an hour this year, but I don't even know if that's attainable anymore. So anyway, that's my goal, and I'm excited to get Kevin on the podcast. It's a really fantastic story. It's a great conversation. He had so many interesting, really truly interesting people that he played catch with over the year, and his journey to raise that money, and we'll tell you exactly how he's doing and how he's done fundraising-wise at the end of the episode, so stick around with that. But enjoy today's episode with Kevin Negaard.
Moonlighters, are you or someone you know moving down to Kansas City? Well, if you are, the one realtor that we trust and yet you need to be calling is the great Brian Samvig. As you well know, Brian Samvig is our producer here on the podcast, and there is not a better residential real estate advisor down in the Kansas City marketplace than Brian Samvig. Call Brian Samvig, shoot him a text. Hey, DM us on social media. We'll get you connected with Brian if you can't find him on all the socials, but he is there and he is active, and he is your Kansas City realtor, so give him a call. Kevin Negaard, welcome to the Moonlight Graham Show. You are currently in the midst of 365 days of continuous catch. How's the arm holding up?
The arm's holding up really, really well. I laugh because I started with day one. I got my arm injected, my shoulder injected. And then after Dyersville in the MLB game where I played in the city park with 119 people, my son is a physician in Indianapolis. So we went to visit him and he injected me. So I've had 2 injections that have kept my arm going. So yep, doing great. It's been wonderful.
So you actually did have an injection the very first day?
Yeah, I have a small rotator cuff tear that I knew I had, and my background is as an athletic trainer, so I have some good orthopedic surgery friends, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to do this. I better get an injection and start in really good shape. So, yep, that's how it all started.
Have you dealt with soreness throughout?
No, I've never had a sore arm except after Dyersville. And my whole body was sore because I think I played catch 8 or 9 hours in the city park. And most of the time I was on my feet throwing, and it was an incredible experience of just hearing stories. But, and then it just so happened that I was going to see my son, and while we're there, I'm like, hey, why don't you just inject me? So,
yeah. I believe your idea for this came from, was it reading Ethan Bryan's book on a year of playing catch? We had Ethan Bryan here on the podcast, and I was one of his 365 days of catch in that book. I was proud to do it. Was that where you got the idea for doing this?
Yeah. So in February of 2021, my wife and I were going to Tanzania, and we couldn't because of COVID. So we did the next best thing. We went to Branson, Missouri in February. And I saw the book down there, and I picked it up, and then I just couldn't put it down. And then in January 18 of 2022 was my 60th birthday. And I'm like, you know what, I can do this and use it to spread the word about the Miracle League and maybe raise some money for the Miracle League. And so that's how it all started.
What's been the biggest challenge of because you're ending this on what, January 17th will be your last day?
Yeah. So today is day 354. So the biggest challenge is the social media part and posting, because I am so challenged in that area. I was never on social media. So, I get the pictures, and then I got to put, and it takes me a half hour to an hour every night, where a 20-year-old would take 27 seconds, and stuff. So that's been the hardest part.
What about scheduling every day?
Well, so when I read the book, I got a hold of Ethan a few months afterwards. I kind of thought about it. Can I do this? Yep, I can do this and stuff. And then he said, what was your hardest part? And for him was finding people. So I just made a list of people who've been influential in my life, baseball fans, blah, blah, blah. And then I had this dream list, a little bit of people I'd like to. And then we just had a website where people could go into an email address and sign up if they wanted to play catch. And it grew much bigger and much faster than I ever dreamt it would. So it's been really cool.
I noticed you went to Africa during the past 365 days. And I was looking through your blog, and some of the people that you played catch with over in Africa were way more unique than I was expecting. What was the Maasai tribe like to play catch with?
Oh, well, first of all, nobody in Tanzania has ever seen anything with baseball. So they've never seen a bat, a glove, or a ball. And so I brought that stuff over. I actually went twice in 2022. The Maasai were incredible because, they're very primitive people. And so anything like that is just brand new, and they get excited about. And everybody tries to put the glove on their dominant hand, and so that's just unique in itself. And then what to do with it. But then, there was more dust flying as they were running around catching balls, and so it starts with the kids, and then the adults are kind of standing on the side, and there's a group of women that we do some economic development things with. And so then they were doing their work, and then they came over and played, and it just grew. And then, it's crazy because you're in this very remote land, but they all have cell phones, but it's all like they have this sixth sense that the Mzungos or white people are in the village, and all of a sudden people just start flocking. So it's a really incredible experience.
I'm surprised the Maasai have cell phones.
Everybody
describe them as primitive, but then they also have cell phones.
Everybody has cell phones. Yeah, it's crazy, and you can get coverage in that country almost any place. It's really unique.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So it's cool that as you look through all the people that you played catch with, there's Mike Pompeo and Dan Gable, and, a lot of Ozzie Smith was on there as well. Yep. But then you also had like the neighbor kids, and you played catch with the neighbor kids a couple of different times. And then, your buddy Frank or whoever it might be, you played catch with your wife a few times. You played catch with yourself a few times, which I thought might've been, was that cheating a little bit, Kevin?
Well, I don't call it cheating, but it was interesting some of the posts on like, gosh, I'm really sorry you had to play catch by yourself, or whatever. I'm like, no, like this is what I did growing up. We grew up, some of my time in town and some were out on an acreage, and I wasn't a farm kid. I loved athletics. I made more ninth inning catches to save a game in my backyard than anybody, or diving onto my bed, or whatever the case may be. So yeah, they've all been special, and those are really things, like even just throwing the ball against a wall and catching. I did that for hours, and I wasn't a very good offensive baseball player in high school and college, but I was a pretty good defensive player, and a lot of that came from coaching, but then just the repetition. And I always was a kid who loved practice more than games. I loved to take ground balls forever.
I got to imagine just the playing catch with your wife, or playing catch with, the neighbor kids. Those little games of catch are probably more impactful than just having a toss with Dan Gable, even though maybe it might raise more money for the cause, but you can make a bigger impact on a kid that doesn't have anybody else to play catch with than, getting Dan Gable and posting that on social media.
Yeah, I think it's so true. The catches are fun, but the relationships, and Ethan talked to me early on about the intimacy of playing baseball. And I'm like, dude, you're obviously a writer, because I've never heard intimacy and baseball, put together, but it's really true. And I found it to be very true over this past year of, you have to be focused or you get hit in the face, and then if there's any intentionality to your conversation, it is a activity that brings everybody back to their youth and to a happy place in their youth, where it may be with the neighborhood kids, it may be time with dad, or whatever the case may be. When people said, are you tired of it? I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, there's not one person who goes, this sucks, I'm never going to do this again in my life, right? They all go, gosh, why haven't I been doing this? This brings back so many good memories. I got to start playing catch more.
What about rainouts? Like no. you have this, thing scheduled, and then sometimes in Iowa it just rains for 3 days in a row. Yeah. Did you have to play catch in the rain, or how'd you get around that?
There's obviously places we could go inside, but a lot of, I would always kind of challenge people. Hey, this will be unique. We haven't done this. So we played in the rain. When we had this really cold spell a few weeks ago, we played outside. It was minus 40 wind chill. That was the coldest day. And so, some people really wanted, yep, I want to set a record, or, do this. And others like, no, I just want to stay warm and dry, and we'll go inside.
So you played it catch outside in the negative 40 wind chill?
Yes.
Was that your shortest game of catch?
No, it was some of our younger staff who are tougher or dumber or whatever it is. But we played a pretty good game of catch that day.
What was your longest game of catch that you had?
Well, the longest time was in Dyersville, and that was an incredible experience. The first guy who played catch with me came early as we were setting up, and he was from Cincinnati. And man, he's about my age, and we played catch, I bet you 15 or 20 minutes. I'm like, this is a great catch, but this is going to be a long day, and stuff. Yeah. But when he left, his wife had been speaking with my wife, and my wife came over and said, this was really special because he has just lost his father. His wife was telling me, and they played catch a lot. So this is healing for him. And that day was like the stories I heard. There's these three guys that were, the oldest was 80, and I think the youngest was 74, and they walked by. I'm like, hey, let's play catch. And they're like, oh, we can't do that. And I'm like, no way, look at these gloves. So I had gloves that somebody gave me that were from the 30s and 40s, so they start pounding, and I'm like, let's go. And they're out there, and pretty soon they're, trying to reenact the old days. And so that was the longest. I played at a middle school in Rock Valley with 179 students and teachers one day. And that was, really just one or two throws with each of them and just moved down the line. But that's the highest number of people I played with in a day.
Out of how many, so you're 350 days into your catch right now. What percentage of the people that you played catch with say, let me show you my curveball?
Every lefty does. They all got to put some movement on it, or their knuckleball. And I bet it's 10% who are legitimate baseball guys or want to do it. One of the most legitimate catches was at the College World Series. They invited me down, and I was in the beer garden. So there's a lot of ex-college guys there with one or two drinks who think they should be playing, in the world. So we chased a bunch of balls that day, but there was a lot of breaking balls thrown that day.
Yeah, were those guys, humming it a little bit, trying to show off a little bit?
Yes, and their buddies, or it's almost like we should have had a speed gun there, because they would, I can outdo you, and then have an orthopedic practice card, because they're all going to hurt themselves, and have them sponsor it. So that was a lot of fun.
How's Gable's arm?
Well, he was hilarious. I was undergrad at Iowa in athletic training, and I had done some wrestling. He wouldn't remember me, but obviously Dan Gable there, and I knew that he was a baseball guy growing up, and so he actually had 7 of his little league bats in his garage that he pulled out, and like in true Gable fashion, one of them he had drilled the barrel out and filled it with cement, so he could get stronger, and so on. So he just says, gosh, I've had multiple shoulder surgeries. I haven't thrown. I don't know if I can do this. And I'm not kidding you. 5 throws in, he goes, this feels pretty good. You get down in a catcher stance, and I'm going to see if I can pitch. And so it was just perfect Gable fashion. And then he called his grandkids over, and, pretty soon we had a yard full of people playing catch. It was really special.
Yeah, I would have wondered if he can even throw at all, because I think he's had some shoulder replacements and tons of issues through the years. But yeah, that's classic. Like if he can functionally do it, he'll figure out a way to do it.
Yeah, and then that competitive Gable kicks in. Like, I think I can throw a strike here, And so it was a fun morning.
Can Ozzie Smith still handle the glove pretty well?
Oh my gosh, so a funny story is, Ethan invited me. He's a big Royals fan. So I go to Kansas City, and we go to the Negro League Museum and play catch there. And it was just really special. And then we go to a Royals game, and he's a writer, so he just bombards you with questions. And I'm like, I don't know if there's going to be enough beer for 9 innings with Ethan and all these questions. But one of the questions he asked is, who would you want to play with? And I said, well, Ozzie's always my favorite player. I'm a longtime Cardinals fan. And he goes, well, I have his manager's email address if you want it, but they never responded to me, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, sure. So that was on a Saturday. I email Debbie, his manager, on Sunday. She responds on Monday. Yep, we're in. We just got to figure out a day. And by the way, I grew up in Sioux City, Iowa. And so obviously this really cool connection. And everybody says, don't go meet your hero, because it's not going to go well, and he was 100 times better than I could have asked. And just an unbelievable, engaging guy. So I said, I'm not going to ask you the typical first question, which is, can you still do a backflip? So I asked him, what's the one question nobody ever asked you during your career that you wish they would have asked you? And he said, nobody ever asked me what I thought my career would be like if I was 6'2", because he's probably 5'9". He's smaller than I am. He's not a very big man. He's got really big hands, but he was so friendly. And, the grounds crew says, like, hey, if you guys are going to play catch, you got to go now. And you can play on the track in front of the third base dugout, or you can go to left field if you want to say you're on the field. And he looks at them and goes, okay. And then he turns and looks at me and goes, we're going to shortstop, and so who's going to tell Ozzie at Busch Stadium he can't go to shortstop? And he was amazing. And I'm like, hey, can I go to second base and you feed me some? I was a second baseman in the day, and he was just wonderful. Just wonderful.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So you got a turn 2 with Ozzie.
Yes. It was pretty special.
You go all this time, and the goal was, hey, I play catch for 365 days, and I want to raise $100,000 for the Miracle League. Do you need to close in a flurry here to hit the goal, or how's it been?
Well, we've been unbelievably blessed. The Miracle League in Sioux City started in 2014, and our goal was to raise $400,000 and build this rubber surface field so everybody can play baseball. And today we're a $4.5 million facility. We're the largest Miracle League in the world as far as the different amenities that we can offer. So this community in this area has just really supported us, and it's been a blessing. The very first broadcast of our local NBC affiliate here, KTIV, the reporter made a mistake. And on air, he said, they're trying to raise $365,000 in 365 days. And we're like, no, it's 100,000 and stuff. And so we haven't pushed the fundraising at all. It's just been kind of this grassroots thing. In November, I had a lady call me, and she grew up in Norway, Iowa, obviously the baseball capital, high school base. And she was in charge of her brother's charitable trust, and just really loved what we were doing and loved that somebody would be passionate enough to do something every day. And she wrote $100,000 check. Never met the woman, and so as we sit today, we're at $345,000 that we've raised. Wow. So I told this reporter, like, you need to do a story and say that everybody thinks you made a mistake, but really you're just a prophet and you knew this was going to happen. And so we want to get to 365 so we can say we raised $1,000 a day for 365 days. So we've been unbelievably blessed.
Well, congratulations on that, Kevin. And I guess my last question is, what did you talk to Mike Pompeo about?
Well, another funny story. So he was flying into Sioux City to speak at our chamber event. The head of the Chamber Commerce, Chris McGowan, said, "Hey, would you want to play catch with Pompeo?" I'm like, "Yes." So we were in a hangar, his handlers are there, his people. And I'm like, "Is he right-handed or left-handed?" And they kind of looked at each other and go, "Well, he's right-handed." So I laid out all my right-handed gloves, my 30s glove, my 3-fingered 40s glove, my brand new glove. And he comes in and I'm like, here's the gloves. You can pick whichever one you want. And he goes, "Gosh, these are really cool." He goes, "But I'm left-handed." I'm like, "You need to talk to your people." So he asked about it. He was very friendly. You could just tell he's a genuine, nice guy. And, took off his sport coat and we played catch a few minutes and then he was off. But that first impression was really, really impressive.
Is this attainable for anybody? Like, I know since Ethan Bryan has done the book, there's been a lot more people that have tried to copy him. Some have made it a month. Some have made it a full year. Some have made it 6 months. Some have done something a little bit different. In your experience, are you looking forward to January 18th when this is done? Or is this going to be something that's like, you know what, that wasn't as hard as I thought, and I kind of am going to miss it a little bit?
Well, I'm going to miss the relationship, but when you're going to be on social media every day and the local media is going to pick it up, I was really concerned that this isn't about me. This is about the Miracle League, and I want to keep it out there. I think the world record is 500 and some days, and I could easily do that. I mean, my arm would hold up. I would enjoy that, but then it really becomes about me. And so I'm glad it's going to end when it does. It's the right time for it. It's been an unbelievable experience. I think you have to have, I think it's attainable for anybody who has a really understanding spouse is a big thing. Probably some flexibility, in your job. Like for Ethan and now John Skakanik out in Washington, he's just a little over day 300. They didn't have a cause like I did. They're just doing it. John's meeting new people. Ethan obviously wanted to write a book about it and experience. I don't know if I would have done it if I didn't have the cause. I think there's times that, oh crap, I got to go find a catch at 10 o'clock at night or something. There's some of those moments, or the weather's bad, like you say, you're like, gosh, I got to go do this. So, but it's easily attained. And I'm telling you, it's like anything you do, you think you're doing it for somebody else or another cause, and yet you're the recipient of many more blessings throughout it. And that's been very true in my experience as well too. I've met some incredible people, made some new friends, and just have this experience that is so rich that my year will be probably remembered by this as much as the other things that happened.
Well, congratulations on completing it. I know you haven't completed it yet, but congratulations on making it this far, and your arm holding up, and sounds like your gloves held up as well. And happy birthday. I know we're 12 days away from that as well, but future happy birthday to that too. So, and thanks for joining the Moonlight Graham Show, Kevin.
Well, I appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity, and thanks for what you're doing.
So after I got done talking to Kevin said, hey, if you want a really great story, you got to look up this kid named Caden Schmidt. So I looked up Caden Schmidt, and Caden Schmidt is a kid that plays baseball at the Miracle League in Sioux City. And he's in a wheelchair. He doesn't have use of his arms. But Caden's dad said to Kevin, hey, during this year that you're playing catch, I want you to play catch with my son. And so Kevin's year of playing catch inspired Caden Schmidt's dad to figure out a way for his son to play catch, even though he's wheelchair bound and he cannot use his arms. And so they got hooked up with this group called Ability Tech that created this technology and this chair that by Caden just moving his eyes and moving his head, it prompts a mechanical arm to throw a baseball. And it's absolutely incredible. I encourage you to Google Caden Schmidt. It got me into tears, and I'm a easy cry. I'm a softie, but I was crying within 45 seconds of watching this because it's so awesome. And it always connects with me when you see a little kid that is so passionate about sports, but he doesn't have the physical ability to get out there. And then his dream is made true through either the Miracle League or some new technology, or sometimes it's just meeting his favorite athlete. And in Caden's case, all of those things have happened. He's been able to play adaptive sports through the Miracle League. He now can play catch through this new technology. It's absolutely incredible. And he even threw out the first pitch at a Kansas City Royals game this past summer. And when I saw this, I just started bawling. Like, it's the coolest thing. And even though Caden doesn't have a lot of expression, you can just see the excitement and the joy in his face when he's doing this stuff. It's so cool to see. So props to Caden's dad, props to Kevin, the Miracle League, the Kansas City Royals, everybody that's done this. But please go, if you want to see a real Moonlighter story, if you want to see a real underdog story, Google Caden Schmidt. You will not be disappointed. Have a great week, Moonlighters.
It's Moonlight Graham, yeah. It's a pretty good program, broadcasting to the heartland. Sports stories for the everyman. It's Moonlight Graham, yeah. Please follow us on Instagram. You're loving us on Twitter too. You download every pod we do. It's Moonlight Graham.